we niet eerste worden, is het eigenlijk een gedoemde split. Hoe zie jij die rivalry voor je met dat team die nu al een beetje lijkt te ontstaan?
Ja, rivalry. Ik denk dat ze flinke downgrades hebben gehad in mid en AD carry.
ZenIT. Did you hear that? Pipipat said, "You a bitch." Welcome back to the second episode of Krazy Flashback already. My eyes look kinda red. I only just woke up, so I apologize for that. But I'm ready to wake you guys up as well, because tonight we have the next couple matches of the Road of Legends. But before we take a look at the next ones coming up, let's take a look at what happened in the past week. Of course, the first game of the week was a banger between ZenIT and MCon, two of the two self-proclaimed best teams here in the league. As the past couple splits, we have seen it, of course, and despite the roster changes, it doesn't necessarily change all too much. So ZenIT came out on top, and that's won fairly convincingly in a 2-0 fashion. We'll also take a look later at how exactly they did that. Then later that evening we had Senshi taking on a one-man army, which were also the teams that won their games last week. And Senshi won 2-0 very comfortably, although in game 2 one-man army definitely did have more pressure than what we saw in game 1. So could have been maybe a 3-game series, but Senshi were able to close it out quite cleanly. Then the next day on the Thursday we had Once Upon a Team taking their first victory of the split over Jormungand in a 3-game fight, I would say, because it definitely went back and forth quite a lot. And then we closed out with Myth taking on Aurora and fairly comfortably went 2-0. So that were kind of the games for this week. I think the one that surprised me the most was still ZenIT versus MCon. I believed it to be a little bit closer than it actually was, but it was simply the team fighting and, must I say, mechanical prowess from ZenIT that came out on top. That's kind of what it felt like, at least. Now in week 3 we'll be taking a look at Aurora against Jormungand, starting it off here. Both of these teams are still not having any success so far. Of course, we're only 2 weeks in, so that's not the worst of the worst, but they're the only teams, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, to not have a victory yet. So that's something they're looking forward to. At least one of these teams will be able to get a win in. The question is just, who will it be? If I had to bet my money, I think it's going to be Jormungand that's going to be taking this one, but I think it's going to be a 2-1. So we'll see how that goes. Then we have Myth taking on Once Upon a Team. Once Upon a Team do have the momentum of last week where they're able to get a win, and that's obviously good for the morale and also for the players, knowing that they are doing stuff well. But I do still think that Myth is going to be taking this one. I think they're a strong team that are still finding their footing, but we saw their potential against Senshi, right? Even though maybe Senshi was not in their best performance in that first game, but we do see that Myth can make them bleed, and that's not the easiest team to make bleed. So I do think Myth is playing with a one-man army for that 4th playoffs spot. So let's see if that actually comes true, but I do think Myth will be taking this one. And on Thursday we have Senshi, yours truly, facing off against MCon as well, and then ZenIT taking on a one-man army later that evening. So 3 of the top self-proclaimed top 3 teams playing in that evening. That's going to be quite entertaining, especially the Senshi versus MCon match. It's going to be a real test for Senshi, I think, because we've seen them perform quite well. We have high expectations now after the first 2 weeks. We had high expectations if we were only looking at the roster, but now they're going to be taking on MCon, who just suffered a loss against ZenIT as well. So if MCon lose here, they could be looking at a 1-2 start, and even though their schedule has been quite hard by then already, because they've faced both ZenIT and Senshi, it could still prove to be not where you want to be, right? Especially as a top 3 team, if you start off 1-2, it can be quite hard to deal with. So let's hope for them that they can turn this one around, but we'll be taking a look on Thursday. ZenIT versus a one-man army. I think ZenIT is definitely the upper dog here, and the one-man army is going to be the underdog, but maybe we'll see Dino and of course Caplica, the rest of a one-man army, do some damage, maybe make some correct plays, but I don't think they'll be taking a game of the reigning champions. Let's take a look at some of these plays from the past week. So starting off here, I have a series of plays from ZenIT where I think it kind of correctly shows how they're just playing mechanically better and how they don't really want to give anything on the map. Because the way that I've noticed them playing is once they have an advantage in the game, they don't want to trade any sort of gold. Like if they can't avoid cross maps or if they're making a play at the bot side, they'll always try to send one member to take care of the other side. Of course, if it's not a 1v3 where you just get dove and you will die, but they try to do it in the best of their abilities. So we'll be taking a look at that in a bit. So they're on Dragon right here, as you can see. And MCon, they face track, right? Because obviously they want to know what's going on, they want to get some info, maybe even look for a steal, but Stokebear dies. Now at this point, MCon's like, okay, well that's fine, we just can't play Dragon. Look at the other side of the map. They still have a tier 3 standing there, it's the only one that, I mean, they have all of them standing there, unfortunately, but it's the only one that's close to dying. Your Gwen is definitely behind in gold if you take a look at Whip, currently 4-1-1 on the Aurora, already starting to build towards the third item, and Gwen only just started her second, right? So she needs some extra gold injections to start scaling, to be really strong in that 1v1 matchup, but also just in a team fight, to be a bit more of a threat against that backline from Tristana and Talia. So makes sense that C7 is going to be top lane farming here, right? But then you have the issue that once C7 does that, then he's like, well, okay, what's going on? This guy's pushing. So Bichan just took care of bot wave. He takes care of bot wave, he's basing, and you already see the pings coming through. He bases, he instantly started to teleport behind C7 here, and C7 gets the tower. So he gets the gold, he's happy. The problem is he's getting chased. And he's like, what is happening? No clue that the teleport from Beacham was coming in there. So now C7 is in trouble. Immunity comes out a little bit too late, flashes away, Seismic Shot still connects, and that's kind of rough. And then all of a sudden here, the fight is not over yet, because they were trying to save C7, they get in a whole lot of trouble. And what actually happens here, it's a bit unfortunate, because C7 goes down, and then we instantly see the Keeper's Verdict coming through from the Guertas here, but the knock-up from Jerky still comes through. So he's now CC, the Beachan is here, Chibi can just go in with the Cyclone, and it's a little bit unfortunate, because he used the first Cyclone, and I thought he was teleporting at first. I thought he was doing instant transitions like it was Goku, but it's actually Guertas trying to get out by Eing Shibi right into the backline, which provides another knock-up, and now Sliver can't do anything, tries to flash away and hits the blast cone, but gets knocked up yet again before it can happen. And all of a sudden, that cross map for MCon, that was just a free tower for your top lane, turns into a disaster, where not only you lost Dragon, and your answer was top lane tier 1, but you lose 4 people in the process. And that also means Atakan is going to be started up here. So, last play I want to show you guys was actually from the Senshi versus a one-man army series, as we take a look at Rumble forcing out the ultimate from Mayuk. So this is very important, right? Because Sion cannot 1v1 the Rumble. So Mayuk was pushing the side lane, Kaplika shows up, says, hey man, can't be doing all that, I can just keep on chasing you. Forces out the ultimate from Sion, very important. He's still way more healthy than the Sion is. So Kaplika is calling, guys, Sion no ultimate, I think we should fight, right? Sion has to go to base, even if he teleports, it's gonna take a while. So now he takes care of the wave, and he starts teleporting. The problem is, in this very moment, you saw the claw. You know Nico is there, but still an aggressive teleport from Kaplika. He could have teleported right here as well in the river, but he teleports aggressively. Senshi instantly recognized the teleport. The pings come out, the voice comms come out, and both the fake Wukong and the real Wukong are in place. And all of a sudden, oh, he's in trouble, right? This is gonna be rough. So Kaplika instantly regrets the teleport, but it doesn't just stop there, because the teleport indicates for a one-man army that they want to save her top laner, of course. They want to maybe even look for a possible fight, but Kaplika is just gonna get blown up. And if you take a look at the combination that Senshi have here, you have a Wukong, you have a Nico, you have an Annie, you can see where this is going. Sion might not have the ultimate, and the teleport even comes in late to us what it should be, but right in time to follow up on this perfect sequence. Flash Cyclone onto 4 people, Decimating Smash onto 2, Pop Blossom onto 2, Special Flashing in just to finish off Meccano as well, and 4 kills off the bat of one single play coming in from Senshi. The thing I want to highlight here is the fact that it was a smart idea from a one-man army to fight that initially, but just the positioning was not that great, right? Because you're gonna be in a choke point against a Nico, against a Wukong. The teleport's simply too aggressive, although the idea was there, because you had the timing on Sion, you know he doesn't have ultimate, you beat it in the side lane. But Senshi, just amazing wombo combo, if you can take a look at it once more. the flash coming in from PPBot with that second Cyclone onto 4 people here. And then a Pop Blossom. Amazing. Wombo combo. Maybe not as pixel perfect as you see in the montages, but this is of course competitive, so we gotta give them props where the props are theirs. So that were the plays I wanted to take a look at for this week. Thank you guys once again so much for watching for the second episode of Krazy Flashback already in the TransIP Road of Legends Summer Split Week 2. We're heading into Week 3, as we said already, with some banger matchups coming on. I'm mostly, of course, looking forward. I'm not biased at all, guys. Don't worry. I'm looking forward to Senshi taking on MCon. I think it's going to be an entertaining series and also a good idea to power scale a little bit, because right now ZNIT is definitely on top, but the question is MCon second or is Senshi second? Is Senshi even second? Is Senshi even first? Depends on what PPBot says, but of course it depends on the actions that are coming as well. So this week will be quite important to the power scaling of the Benelux, of course, so I hope to see you there. Enjoy the rest of your week, guys, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.